be careful with these sounds too good to be true funds out there that are promising a year return, and they're promising all this stuff. Most of the time, you look at it and you look at the fine print, they can't guarantee that return over time. Maybe they'll give you an 8% return for a year or two, but then after that, who knows where it's going to go? And then they have all your money.
Hey, Inspired Tribe, my fellow freedom lovers, John Nolan here. Thank you so much for tuning in to another Inspired Conversation. And as the new year begins, things are definitely not slowing down and becoming calmer. Actually, things are speeding up and becoming somewhat stranger. And when it comes to those topics, one of the big ones this year is definitely continually going to be finance, money, what to do, how to protect your assets, what to invest in. And I couldn't think of a better person to discuss this with than our friend and partner, the CEO and founder of Noble Gold Investments, Colin Plume. Colin, thank you so much for joining us again.
Yeah, thanks for having me. No, it's great to be back, and hopefully everybody had a healthy, happy new year and got some time to relax and get back. And now it's time again. We got to start thinking about money and this year in 2024 and the elections, and there's so many things that are happening and affecting our day-to-day life, and we have to address those issues.
I couldn't agree more, Colin. Happy New Year to you and your family as well. May it be a prosperous, successful, and healthy one. And Colin, one of the things that I wanted to get your reaction on, we're hitting the 10-day mark here for the new year. And as I said, things haven't slowed down. They have actually sped up and become weirder. We had a very strange incident in Miami. I don't know if you've heard about it. Hundreds of police cars showing up for a supposed small little fight between teenagers. That's one thing that's it was kind of ringing in the new year. But really what happened on January 8th, all of Germany was basically shut down by huge farmers' protests. The biggest protest wave in Germany that's they've ever seen. The French government has stepped down on January 8th, and the UN announced that they're running out of money and have to close their headquarters in Geneva temporarily because they can't heat the place or whatever. Strange things. When you hear these things, what do you think? Is that a signal that 2024 is just going to get wilder than ever?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's all a cry for, people that want to have a normal way of living. They want to be able to keep up. And obviously the farmers in Germany weren't happy with what they were getting paid, and they were looking to get an increase. The UN, closing down. I mean, listen, if they close down every UN everywhere, I think that place is garbage in my opinion. They haven't done much good except for, focused on, very unique policies that really only help a very small amount of people, which is sad because, I mean, the idea behind it, bringing countries together in a peaceful forum to make change in an environment where everybody feels safe is a good premise. But what has happened is that it's really become an area where a lot of the policies are just focused on very small groups. They don't really focus on big change that would help the people as a whole. So I don't feel for the United Nations at all. But yeah, I mean, I think coming into this year, what we're looking at financially is, people are looking at the stock market. Last year finally started to turn for a lot of people. This year it's been a little rockier, kind of first 10 days of the year. And people are trying to keep up with their way of living. They're trying to find a way to keep up with this crazy inflation that we have. And even though the government says we're at 3% and it's dropped down, most people don't believe that. They can see their energy bill, they can see their food costs. Everything has skyrocketed pretty dramatically. Even the unemployment rate, came out at 3.6%. I don't think most people believe that. Those rates are, underemployment is still very high. A lot of people have just stopped looking for jobs, so that's how they're able to report these really low numbers. And then the banks are having some problems. One of the things that people that aren't always watching this is they forget that the banks, just less than a year ago, a lot of major banks had liquidity issues. And they had liquidity issues because the bond rates move up, and they had bet the wrong way. They basically bet the wrong way, and they didn't have enough cash. And there was bank runs, people going to banks. And so they had to create this bill. The Fed created this bill where they could loan money to banks. And they thought it'd be some banks would use it. But for the Bank Term Funding Program, the BTFP, as of December, there was 124 billion outstanding in loans with banks. And they don't always release the banks. I wasn't able to. I'm trying to get the information from some insiders that I have. But there's some pretty big banks that haven't been able to have enough cash on hand. And so they're using this capital to continue to fund their banks. And so this year for banks, regional banks, maybe a few of the bigger banks, they could be in a lot of trouble. And that's the thing that people don't realize, is that last year was just a glimpse of what could happen. But the Fed can only prop up banks for so long before they run into problems. And so I think this year is going to be an interesting year. I think we will see another run on banks. I think we'll see some other major banks go down. And I know, the Fed has talked about lowering interest rates, and I truly believe they're only lowering interest rates because they want to affect the election this year. And they know that if they don't lower interest rates, we could have a catastrophe with banks. I mean, if rates stayed in the 6 to 8% range, I wouldn't be surprised if you saw hundreds of banks close down. I mean, there's not the amount of people that are outstanding that have loans coming this year that had loans at 3%, 4%. They cannot afford to refinance at 6 to 8%. It's impossible. They just don't. Their income hasn't gone up. If they have a business, their income hasn't gone up enough. If they have an apartment building, their rents have not gone up enough. They just can't make that change. And so when you can't afford, where does it go to? It goes to the banks. And then in essence, it goes to the Fed. So that's why you have this Fed with this program. And it was supposed to be a year program, and it's expiring in March of this year. But they have 125 billion owed. What's going to happen? Are they going to extend this program out a little bit longer? Obviously, there's a lot of banks that use this line of credit. It was supposed to be sort of like a bridge line for about a year. So it's a struggle situation with money in this country. We are broke. We're trying to patch, the dam in any different way that we can. And it really does trickle down to, average Joe and Jane American, that they are also struggling to keep up with this rising inflation, rising rates. So it's a difficult year for people that are just trying to keep up and also put away some money for retirement. They're making it very difficult with this kind of economy, and nobody can really trust that we're going to be in strong footing for the next year or two.
Actually, the World Bank has just announced, I'm not a fan of the World Bank by any stretch of the imagination, but the World Bank has just announced that the first half of this decade is likely going to be the worst in terms of economic growth in the past 30 years. And of course, with COVID and everything that followed, that's kind of to be expected. But it definitely, there's way more happening than just a normal economic cycle and a normal downturn. We're in a huge transitioning period. You and I have talked about it. A lot of nations and the world at large is looking at CBDCs, a complete transition to digital money. Whether that's going to happen or not, we hope it won't, but it certainly looks like that's where they want to go. And people are very uncertain about what to do when they have money, when they have assets, what to invest it in, how to protect themselves, and like I say, how to protect their retirement. Two of the things I hear the most often, Colin, are I can't eat gold when it comes to emergency preparedness. I can't eat gold. And the second thing is, what's gold going to matter in a completely digital currency world? What are we going to do with gold?
I have eaten gold. I will tell you that. I put it on, one of those places, they put it on a steak. I tried it. I don't recommend it. I will tell you that. It is very popular out there. So you're right in some ways. You can't eat it though. It's not something you can eat.
There you go.
Yeah.
Colin Plume just proved you wrong.
You can't eat gold. Well, I think for bartering, first I'll just say that, for people that haven't been watching, gold did break through 2000 again. And I always say, you look at the charts and you look at where gold is and you look at, 2000 is a big psychological barrier for gold because, it was sitting in the $1,400 to $1,900 range for a long time. And now it broke through 2000. It's hovering around, maybe it goes a little bit below. But what I'm saying is that I remember when gold was at 1,000, under 1,000, broke 1,000 in 2008, 2009. And once it hit that above 1,000, it just kept moving. It just kept running. And we went on a massive run from 2009 to 2011. And gold was going up more than 25% a year. So I think that, people need to look at gold and realize that like this kind of price, this environment we're in is a normal environment. A lot of people are saying, well, it seems expensive now, but this is the norm. I mean, a lot of other things that we buy day to day, percentage wise, have dwarfed the percentage that gold has gone up. A lot of things that we live with. Now, for trading and bartering, I would say that, yes, I know that people say you should have some ammo, you should have some food, some non-perishable items. But you got to understand too, the reason you want to have gold, the reason that gold was used in the Bible is that you don't know what your trading partner is going to want. You don't know what they may have more guns and bullets than you. So telling them you want to trade with more bullets is irrelevant. They're not going to need it. Gold is a equitable, fungible item that is easy to understand the value. So, and you don't want to be in a position where you have too much of one thing and you're in a bad negotiating position. That's why people stop trading specifically with cattle or grain, because if there's too much in the market, the item you have becomes not worth what you thought it was going to be worth. So gold is an easy thing to trade with and barter with. So it does make a lot of sense. And for people that, a lot of people say, well, I don't want to do the IRA. But if you have a lot of your net worth in an IRA and you want to get out of cash or you want to get out of the stock market, you can always convert it to a gold IRA and take possession of that gold when you retire. That's what people, they think it's some fund or something that's pie in the sky. It's not. You're buying real gold. It's just that you have to follow the terms of the IRS agreement, which is with your IRA, and that you have to be above the age of 15 and a half to start taking distributions. But you can, if you're 15 and a half.
Which grants you the tax benefit that you wouldn't have if you
Correct.
just outright buy the gold.
Correct.
And,
Right.
and so that's the whole purpose of an IRA is to have the tax benefits.
Correct.
Right.
Right. Exactly. And all, yes, exactly. And so, when people do that with us, and I, listen, I hold gold and I have a lot of gold too, but the idea that you have this retirement account and you want to get it out of the stock market, what are your options in the landscape out there? What are you going to put it into? There's only a few things. You can keep it in some kind of mutual funds. You can roll it into a self-directed IRA and you could pick stocks, right? If you wanted to, you could pick, if you're that good, which I don't know, unless you're in Congress, you're not going to be that good. You could buy real estate. Now, I will tell you, there's a lot. I own a lot of real estate. I'm big into physical assets. I'm a partner in almost 32 apartment buildings, small percentage. I own some triple net properties. I own a house that I Airbnb. I understand commercial. I understand real estate. Be careful with these sounds too good to be true funds out there that are promising a year return. They're promising all this stuff. Most of the time, you look at it and you look at the fine print, they can't guarantee that return over time. Maybe they'll give you an 8% return for a year or two, but then after that, who knows where it's going to go. and then they have all your money. So that's another option in IRA. The beauty behind gold and silver and platinum right now, and palladium in the IRA, is that these are items that are being used in business every day. These are commodities. These aren't just. That's the thing about gold that's so unique, is that you have central banks buying it, and they barter with it. They have central banks that are buying it because they use it for industry. So they'll use it, in jewelry. They'll use it in, other, heart monitors and things like that. It's such a unique metal. There's nothing else in the world like it. That it can be used as a currency, and it could be used as a heart monitor in your body, or it could be used to trade and barter. I mean, that's what makes these things so unique, and that's why probably a lot of people that watch your show, that read the Bible will make the joke about eating it, but also they probably it's probably something that they've been thinking about for a while, but they're just concerned about, what do I do with it? What if I need it? What if and I would say this, in the 15 years I've been doing this, there's never been one day that I couldn't sell any of the gold and silver that I own to anybody. All the bullion coins and bars that I have, anybody would buy them. Of course, we buy them back from our clients, and we give amazing prices on buybacks, but anybody in the world would buy the items that we sell anywhere in the world, and they are liquid anywhere you go. So it is a quite unique metal in that way. And so I think it's something to really focus on today, is like, what are my options in the IRA that I feel comfortable with? And then how much of one asset do I have? And to go back to the analogy of not eating gold and bartering with gold, I would say the same thing about your investments, in that the last 2 years, until maybe the last 3 months, nobody that had stocks wanted to sell their stocks because they were down significantly. And that is the worst position to be in as an investor, because what if there was an opportunity over the last 2 years and you wanted to sell and to get into something else? Well, you weren't going to do it if you were all in the stocks. But if you had some in gold, as gold was rising, you could have sold some gold and jumped into another investment, or started a business, or helped somebody, fix your roof, or whatever it is. So it's really important that, very similar to trading and bartering, you do not want to have all your assets tied into one investment. It doesn't. Unless you're Warren Buffett and you're going to pick the perfect stocks for the next 40 years, I think I would recommend, diversifying what you have in your holdings.
And there's a very common theme when it comes to, especially looking into the future, not just short-term cash flow, but looking into retirement, like you say, and looking into having assets in the future, is, when we talked about this last time you were on our show, 1 ounce of gold bought you pretty much the same amount of items, or gave you the same experience in 1923 as it did in 2023. The dollar, however, has been devalued by multiple 100% since, or 1,000 probably.
Yeah.
And so we're looking at gold or precious metal as a great hedge against inflation, which oftentimes is all that people are actually looking for a portion of their investment, is simply to make sure that they don't lose value, or at least, stay level or go a little up. Sometimes that's conservative as people want to go.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think when you build a nest egg, you're more looking about protection. And, right now I do think it's quite scary out there, because there's so many financial schemes that people have to be. I don't know if we talked about this last time, but how you can buy fractional stocks.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah, and there's a lot of these things and they're all over the internet. These ways that they're trying to kind of hook you in on investments, and unfortunately, the stock market is backed by the government, and it's backed by large institutions, and it's backed by BlackRock and all these companies. So a lot of times these things that people buy out there, it takes them a long time to realize that these aren't going to pay the returns that they wanted to get. And maybe they're not, really what they thought they were buying. These kind of things take time, unfortunately. But for someone that has done the research, I think there's some really just simple ways to really maximize your retirement and make sure you're doing something effective. I do believe in real estate, but I don't believe in having any real estate that you don't understand and that you don't have some control over. So I don't think the idea of buying into a fund is the best way to go because there's so many layers in there. Now, REITs and things like this on the exchange, some of them have proven over time, but ultimately those returns are going to be pretty small, relatively speaking. The best kind of return is across the street or down the street, you buy a house and it's a rental property and you do the work and you're involved and you're hands-on and you look at the expenses and you're doing that. Now, except for probably in the last year, that would have been a great investment, except rates, went up 85%. And so you really couldn't, there was no math there to make it make sense. So if you're not doing that right now, where are the other options that you can look into? Of course, there's a traditional stock market. There's people that do great there. It's one way to go. And then there's things like, precious metals, simple things that have been around and aren't as sexy as, some of the other investment vehicles that are out there. There's, some people do annuities. There's these kind of things that are out there that, people bash on annuities, but I think there is a time and a place for an annuity. I think when somebody dies and there's an inheritance and some young children are involved, like maybe having it set up an annuity so they can't screw it up is probably a good idea, right? You don't want them to have their hands in the money too quickly. But overall, I think is having your hands and being involved in investment is a really good way to go. And that's why the self-directed IRA, which is with anybody that's watching this, if you have an old 401k anywhere, you should always go to a self-directed IRA and be in charge of your money and be able to make the financial decisions. Don't let it hang in that old company anymore. Roll it out of there, get to a self-directed IRA and start to really look at what's happening. Look at the expenses, look at everything so you can make an informed decision on your money. And I think that's the best way to handle these kind of accounts. We still are shipping a lot of gold to people's doorsteps. So you can definitely just buy from us directly. We can ship it to your doorstep or we can store it for you if you want. But I think it's a pretty exciting year for gold. We just started this kind of bull run, I would say early last year. And typically bull runs run for a few years. I think 2,300 gold this year is very realistic. And then I think silver, I just bought a lot more silver. I think silver breaking 30 this year is very likely scenario. I think every report out there, everything I read from mining, everything I've read is that there's just not enough silver to fulfill the demand. So I feel pretty good at silver breaking 30 this year. So I just bought a little bit more myself. The only problem with silver is like at some point, like how big is your safe kind of thing. So you do have to have a lot of space or we can store it for you. But I like silver's value coming into 2024. I definitely think it's undervalued.
I'll be honest with you, Colin. Out of all the things, or all the investments that we have done, I'm still most excited about gold and silver, which is a regular buy for us. It's a regular investment like for you. So that's what we always only recommend what we do ourselves and what we, I don't blow hot air. So that's why we're excited about our gold and silver holdings. Actually even more silver, like you said, than gold recently. But Colin, if people want to buy, whether they want to buy $5,000 or $10,000 worth of precious metals, or whether they really want to convert the IRA into a precious metal IRA, how can they learn a little more about it? How can they overcome their insecurities? What can your team do to help people and hold their hand through this process?
Yeah, I think the best thing to do is just to call in and speak to somebody live. Everybody at our team, they understand gold and silver. They understand the physical metal market. We're not a fund. You're going to buy physical metals from me. We're going to ship it to you or put it in a depository for you. So I think the best thing always is to get the information, get our free guides, get in our email list, and just start to learn and get educated. And most people tell me once they've gotten some gold or silver, they feel a lot better about the decision. They just feel a little bit safer that they got out of the dollar and they moved it into physical assets. And I think that's important that you have safety in your portfolio and you have a few things that you feel comfortable with. And depending on your age, you do want to be more secure and you want to be safer as you get closer to that retirement age. You want some things in there that you can kind of count on. And I think, with Noble Gold, that's something that people always look for, is they look for that stability. And that's what we provide. Coupled with the fact that I think people calling in will really enjoy the people. We don't, if you want to talk to somebody for half an hour, 40 minutes on the phone and build a rapport, and there's no clock here for us. I mean, we want to build relationships with people, so which is unique in the world of finance and money. Most people are trying to churn and move really quick, but we've been around for a while and we want to build relationships. So I would say the best thing to do is call in and talk to somebody live and build a relationship with one of the sales associates.
Well, that's what I appreciate the most, is the human to human interaction in the time of chatbots and AI generated voice, whatever.
Right.
I love that people can still talk to humans. And so I encourage you, Inspire Tribe, check it out. Go to noblegoldinvestments.com. The phone number is going to be right here. Give them a call. Ask your questions. It's a no pressure conversation. You can ask your questions and find out. As I've said before, Colin, I'm really way more excited about our precious metal holdings than I am about our dollars in a bank account. Like, way more. And I think you feel the same way. Colin, once again, Happy New Year to you and your family.
Thank you. Same to you. Yeah, thanks, Gene.
Thank you so much for coming on again, for joining us. And Inspire Tribe, please check out noblegoldinvestments.com. Give them a call and see if it's the right fit for you. As I said, we are really excited about our gold and silver, and we're going to look into the precious metals that Colin has been mentioning too.
Platinum. I like platinum. Right.
Platinum, right? Platinum.
Platinum's hard to get, but we do have some. We have a small supply of platinum if anybody's interested also.
Fantastic. Colin Plume of Noble Gold Investments, thank you, and Inspire Tribe, thank you for joining us. We love you. We appreciate you, and we'll be back with you again very, very soon.